I have been looking for validation from my dad and the writing as long as I've been a writer. And so it was just this huge moment where my mom sent me a picture of him reading my book, and he was engrossed, you know, elbows on his knees, deep in thought, looking at every page. And I thought, wow, that was what it's all about for me. It was huge. This whole book started about 2 years ago in 2022 when I decided that, you know, at 40 years old, I had my first son, 39, and at 40, I decided that it was time I finally shoot my first elk, which in Idaho, I should have done at 12, right? 13, 14 maybe. But no, it took me until I was 40 years old to go out with the intent of bringing home some meat. And this book is just that account. It's the one day we're out on the hunt. And the rest of the book is this letter to my son about what I want him to know about the hunt and our lifestyle in Idaho, our way of life, the way I think, the way that my father's taught me to think, and also how I am and what I do and how I'm different. That yearning to understand oneself is what I would like my son to understand most about the book. What is this drive to find out who you are in the world? That's, I think, the stuff of literature, and that's what I am after when I'm trying to write. I had a grandmother who was a painter, and this was an invitation to be an artist, but I was not a painter. All the skills I don't have led me to the one skill that I really truly feel like was an innate talent, and that's writing. It's been an innate obsession, but really where I got a lot of permission, a lot of encouragement, was in high school early on, working for the Ririe High School newspaper. I wrote features on people, and I did interviews, and we would do movie reviews. Eventually, I became the editor-in-chief of that newspaper, and we won some national awards, and we got some good attention, and that took me to college, which, you know, I always had work on the farm, and part of me says you could have stayed on the farm and worked, but it was writing that led me off the farm with a journalism degree to Rexburg to start attending college. My first publication, paid publication, was with Idaho Magazine, and that was in 2006. And I got paid $18 for a little essay that I wrote for them. And I've been publishing ever since. My dad is he's a man of his generation. His values are hard work, dependability, duty. He believes in everybody fulfilling their role in a community or in a workspace. And he has high expectations, and very little patience for those that, you know, step away from those expectations. And me, I'm different. I want, you know, I was a little more artistic and soulful, and, you know, my feelings are big, and I can't do anything about that, you know. So as happens in the book, part of the reason I didn't hunt for so long is because I just hated inflicting pain on animals, right? That's a hard part of our lifestyle here that I grew up with on a cattle ranch. You're surrounded by death all the time, and sad death, accidental death, machine death. I took all that personally, and there is a personality type here that accepts that and moves on. That's part of life. And so I think I'm not totally opposite my dad. I'm just half and half. My mother is this big artistic soul. She plays organ and piano. She's from this big family of vastly talented artists. And then I have my dad, who is just this kind of grinded out, show up daily, and eventually, step by step, you'll make it and you'll win, you'll achieve what you're going after. These two personalities inside me are it's my dad that's keeping me up at 11 o'clock at night after a day on the farm to work on a book. That's my dad's personality. But it's my mom's personality to, laugh and cry while I'm making that book and feel all these big feelings and try to see how it might affect somebody else. I think it's this perfect combination of the two that allowed me into the writing world. I was at Stanford in a critical time, I think, generationally with my group of people and politically in America, and it was the Mormon moment as well. I was in California during the Mitt Romney presidency run. And so I was there because I was who I was. They wanted to see what a writer coming out of Idaho in the Mormon faith looked like. Was it easy to be in those rooms in Stanford being who I was? It was not easy. It felt hard, and it felt singular, and it felt exposing in a different way. I left Stanford and came home to the farm and worked on the farm for 3 years, recalibrating the way that I thought about what I was writing, the stories that I was telling, who I left out of my stories, My life on the farm has been very male dominant. That's who's out working on the farms every day, are these men, these good fathers that are out there providing for their families. And so when I was at Stanford, I was writing these farm stories that were all about men. And women in the room were like, well, where are the women? And I said, well, they're not out on the farms. And they said, well, yeah, but they're raising the kids, and they're cooking the meals, and they're paying the bills, and they're part of the story. Why aren't they in the story? 10 years later, 12 years later, as I'm writing this book, it gives me so much more circumspection about the story. I have been looking for validation from my dad and the writing as long as I've been a writer. And so it was just this huge moment where my mom sent me a picture of him reading my book, and he was engrossed, elbows on his knees, deep in thought, looking at every page. And I thought, wow, that was what it's all about for me. It was huge. Anything worth having in this world, you have to go out and get yourself. That's the ideal I want my son to know. And apart from that, that he had a dad that wouldn't quit. That's what I want him to know.
Yeah.